Outside a repair shop, you call your manager again. Your car will not start. Your shift begins in 18 minutes. Miss it, and your job is at risk. Pay for the repair, and rent is at risk. At $30,000, nobody answers. At $1 million, a chief executive officer rearranges his morning for you. You are the same person. Only the number changes, and the value people assign to your ideas, mistakes, and time. Every call gets returned. You trust fewer of them. Level 1, $30,000. Nobody has time for your story. You are 24 and work in an entry-level shipping clerk position at a smaller warehouse outside Columbus, Ohio. Your job is to print labels, correct damaged orders, track returned packages, and solve the small problems that keep hundreds of boxes moving toward people you will never meet. You earn $30,000 a year. In this story's illustrative budget, after federal, payroll, state, and local taxes, health insurance, and small payroll deductions, roughly $2,000 reaches you each month. Actual take-home varies with withholding and benefits. Your half of a 2-bedroom apartment is $780. Utilities and internet average $140. Car insurance is $155. Your phone is $55. Gas, groceries, and the minimum payment on a credit card take most of what remains. You are not starving. You are working full-time. From the outside, your life looks stable, but stability at this level means everything must go mostly right. The Federal Reserve asks Americans a revealing question in its annual Household Economics Survey. Could you cover a $400 emergency using cash or its equivalent? That question matters because financial fragility is not always visible. It can look exactly like your life: employed, insured, and one repair away from moving a bill. This morning, something went wrong. The mechanic calls you over and shows you the estimate: $580. You have $126 in savings. The credit card in your wallet is already carrying the cost of 2 tires from last winter, but you hand it over because the warehouse is 14 miles away and the bus does not run there before your shift. By the time your manager finally texts, it is 6:41. Get here when you can. We'll discuss attendance later. You read the message twice. You want to explain that you left early, that you maintained the car, that the alternator gave no warning, that this is not who you are, but nobody asked for the story. That is what $30,000 begins teaching you. The system rarely has to call you irresponsible. It simply has no room for the details that would prove you are not. You arrive 90 minutes late and stay through lunch to make up the work, even though the timekeeping system will not restore the hours. A supervisor named Brad meets you beside the loading schedule. He is not cruel. He is busy. He reminds you of the attendance policy, checks a box on a tablet, and moves on to a delayed truck from Indianapolis. Your emergency lasted all morning. To him, it lasted 45 seconds. At work, you notice that damaged orders from one packing station keep coming back. The labels are being placed across a fold in the boxes where scanners sometimes miss the barcode. You calculate that the returns are costing hours of rework every week. You mention it during the morning huddle. Brad nods without looking up. Send me an email. You send it. Nothing happens. 2 weeks later, the operations manager visits the floor. Brad walks him past the packing station and points to the labels. By Friday, a new instruction sheet is posted above every table. Good catch, the operations manager tells Brad. Brad thanks him. You stand 6 feet away holding a roll of labels. You could interrupt. You could say the email was yours. But you imagine Brad's face, the next schedule, the attendance discussion that is not finished, and the words remain in your mouth. The hardest part of earning $30,000 is not that nobody believes you have ideas. It is that proving an idea belongs to you can cost more social capital than you have, so you become useful quietly. You learn which driver will accept a late pallet and which one will leave at exactly 4 o'clock. You learn how to correct an address without restarting an order. You learn the warehouse software by clicking through menus after your shift when nobody is waiting behind you. At night, you watch free tutorials on transportation management systems. The videos are boring. That is almost comforting. A boring skill feels like something life cannot suddenly take away. Then the warehouse system fails on the first Monday in December. Holiday orders are stacked behind every station. Labels stop printing. Drivers begin asking whether they should wait. Brad calls information technology and gets placed in a queue. You recognize the error message from a tutorial. The software is still connected, but one shipping profile has stopped communicating with the printers. You reset the profile, route the urgent orders through a second queue, and the first label slides out, then another. The line begins moving. For the rest of the afternoon, supervisors call your extension whenever a station freezes. People who normally say, "Hey, now use your name." Brad stands beside you and asks what you think the evening shift should do. At 7:18 the next morning, your phone rings. It is the operations manager. He asks if you would apply for an open logistics coordinator position. The job handles dispatch schedules, carrier problems, and the software you taught yourself to use. It pays $60,000. You say you are interested, then sit on the edge of your bed staring at the call history. The first sign that your life is changing is not the money. It is seeing an important name on your phone and realizing he is calling because he needs your answer. For the first time, someone important needs what you know. You are about to learn that being needed and being seen are not always the same thing. Level 2. $60,000. People start calling back. The first paycheck feels like a mistake. In this story's illustrative budget, after federal, payroll, state, and local taxes, health insurance, and enough of a 401k contribution to receive the company match, your take-home lands around $3,700 a month. The exact figure changes with withholding and benefits, but to you it feels less like a raise than a new law of physics. You move into a small one-bedroom apartment for $1,250. You replace the car that kept threatening your job with a reliable used sedan. The payment is $340, and insurance is $170. For the first time, you fill the tank instead of buying enough gas for today. You schedule the dental appointment you postponed twice. At the grocery store, you still compare prices, but you no longer remove an item at checkout because the total climbed higher than you expected. The biggest luxury is Sunday night. You open your banking app, look at the bills coming next week, and your shoulders do not move toward your ears. You begin paying yesterday back. The alternator is still on the card. So are the tires. You set an automatic payment above the minimum. You save $200, then $500, then the first $1,000 you have ever kept without an immediate emergency taking it. But the old life does not disappear when the new salary begins. Your mother calls because her electric bill was higher than expected. You send $100. Your roommate from the old apartment needs help moving, so you spend Saturday carrying boxes. A friend suggests a weekend in Nashville. Your share will be about $700. At $30,000. You would have said no before the sentence ended. Now you are tired of being the person who always checks the price of belonging. You book the trip. It is fun. You laugh more than you have in months. You also carry the balance for 5 months because the apartment needed a couch, the car needed registration, and the extra money was not as permanent as it first appeared. Nothing you bought was ridiculous. That is why lifestyle inflation is hard to see. It rarely arrives as a sports car. It arrives as a safer neighborhood, a reliable vehicle, a chance to join your friends, and evidence that the difficult years led somewhere. Chart 1. The first dollar of relief. Doubling your salary does not double your freedom. But in this story, the recurring payments we can compare leave you with $1,065 at the first level and $1,940 at the second before food, gas, debt, repairs, and the rest of life. That extra margin is why the first raise can feel bigger than the numbers suggest. At work, the change is easier to see. You coordinate 25 drivers and 3 major carrier accounts. When a storm closes part of Interstate 70, you reroute 2 loads before the customer knows there is a problem. When a driver calls out, you find coverage. When the sales team promises delivery without checking capacity, you are the person who turns the promise into a schedule. A carrier representative named Melissa used to call Brad when an order failed, even when you were the person who fixed it. Now she calls you directly. One afternoon she says, "What do you think we should do?" The question lands harder than it should. You have had opinions your entire working life. What changed was not your ability to think. What changed was that your title gave other people permission to wait for the answer. Nobody becomes dramatically kinder. The world simply develops more patience around you. That patience feels good. It also makes you notice who still does not receive it. A shipping clerk named Elena tells you that one packing station is creating duplicate labels. The morning is busy, and your first instinct is to say, "Send me an email." You hear Brad's voice coming out of your mouth, so you stop. You walk to the station with her. She is right. The mistake is small but repeated hundreds of times. You ask Elena to explain the fix during the afternoon meeting, and when the warehouse manager praises the idea, you say her name before anyone can attach yours to it. That decision costs you nothing now. At $30,000, protecting your own idea felt dangerous. At $60,000, you have enough position to protect somebody else's. Still, this level gives you something real. Your emergency fund reaches 3 months of basic expenses. The card balance disappears. You contribute to retirement before you can spend the money elsewhere. You have not become rich. You have become harder to knock over. You remember when being heard felt like a financial milestone. Now, you are learning that attention and security are not the same thing. Over the next 4 years, you learn every part of the operation. You train dispatchers, negotiate with carriers, and build a scheduling process that cuts late deliveries. When the regional operations manager leaves, the company interviews outside candidates. Then Melissa, the carrier representative, calls the vice president and says the person already doing half the job is sitting inside the building. The offer is $120,000. At $60,000, people started returning your calls. At $120,000, they may trust your answer before they have heard the whole question. Level 3. $120,000. Your opinion arrives before you do. 6 figures used to sound like a destination. When you were 24, someone earning $100,000 belonged to a category called successful. They owned a home, took vacations, and never stood outside a repair shop wondering which bill would move. Now your salary is $120,000. In this story's illustrative budget, roughly $7,000 reaches your checking account each month after taxes, health insurance, and retirement contributions. Actual take-home depends on filing status, withholding, benefits, and location. The number is substantial. So are the responsibilities waiting for it. Consumer spending data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics places housing and transportation among the largest household expenses. But averages cannot tell you what 6 figures feels like until you know how many lives that income is carrying. You are in your early 30s now. You are married, and your first child is 2. The 1-bedroom apartment became a townhome in a school district you researched for weeks. The mortgage, property tax, and insurance total $2,700 a month. Daycare is $1,500. Groceries cost more than they did when you lived alone, and family health insurance has a deductible large enough to remain uncomfortable. You are not living badly. You are funding several futures at once. Retirement needs money because lost years do not return. Your child has a 529 plan. Your mother needs more help than she did 5 years ago. The house has a roof, a furnace, plumbing, and a long list of things that can fail without caring about your job title. In January, the furnace does exactly that. The replacement costs $7,500. You transfer the money from savings and schedule the work. The house is warm again 2 days later. No credit card balance follows you into summer. No other bill has to wait. Nothing dramatic happens. That is what 6 figures bought, the ability to let a problem remain the size it was when it arrived. Chart 2. The 6-figure squeeze. At 6 figures, housing and daycare alone take $4,200, exactly 60% of the $7,000 reaching your account. The remaining $2,800 still has to cover groceries, transportation, out-of-pocket healthcare, home maintenance, support for your mother, and everything else. The salary doubled. So did the number of futures asking it for money. At work, your authority arrives before you do. You manage 4 locations, dozens of drivers, and a budget large enough that vendors check the caller ID. When you enter a meeting, people pause long enough to hear where you sit. When you say a timeline is unrealistic, the sales team changes the date. When you ask for a report, it appears before your second reminder. You have not become twice as intelligent since earning $60,000, but your hesitation is now called caution. Your directness is called leadership. A suggestion that once needed a spreadsheet now needs only a sentence. Most of the time, this helps you do good work. Sometimes it makes you uncomfortable. During a planning meeting, Elena, now a team lead, raises a concern about the new warehouse layout. A senior manager talks over her and continues presenting. Nobody reacts. You say, "Hold on, I want to hear the rest of Elena's point." The room stops immediately. Elena explains that the new layout forces employees to cross the forklift lane twice per order. The safety team reviews it and changes the plan. After the meeting, she thanks you. You tell her she should not have needed your title to finish a sentence, but both of you know that she did. That is the complicated privilege of this level. You can finally open doors, but you also see how many stayed closed until the right person touched the handle. At a neighborhood dinner, someone asks what you do. When you say you oversee regional logistics, their attention sharpens. They ask follow-up questions. You remember answering the same question years ago with shipping clerk and watching eyes search the room for the next conversation. You are still you, but the outline around you has become easier for strangers to value. The job also begins following you home. Messages arrive during dinner, a trailer overturns at 5:40 on a Friday, and the weekend changes shape. A manager quits, and their decisions temporarily become yours. You are not paid only to complete tasks anymore. You are paid to absorb uncertainty without letting everyone else feel it. One evening, you sit in the driveway answering an email. It is 8:17. Through the front window, you can see your spouse clearing plates from the table. Your child presses both hands against the glass when they notice the car. The vehicle is reliable. The neighborhood is safe. Your account can survive a broken furnace. And work has followed you into all of it. The phone rings. It is the vice president. You answer before going inside. The company is expanding across the Midwest. They want you to lead the new region. The package includes a $220,000 base salary, a performance bonus, and equity that could bring annual income close to $300,000. For the first time, you are not applying for the opportunity. The opportunity is calling you. Level 4. $300,000. Every call feels important. The promotion changes your calendar before it changes your bank account. There are flights to Dallas, quarterly meetings in Chicago, and calls scheduled before your child wakes up. You oversee multiple states, hundreds of employees, and contracts worth more than every paycheck you have earned in your life combined. When the bonus is strong, your annual income reaches about $300,000. After federal and state taxes, benefits, and retirement contributions, your take-home varies, but it is more money than your 24-year-old self knew how to picture. You live very well. The family moves into a larger house closer to a better school. The total housing cost is about $5,500 a month. You replace both aging cars. Vacations become easier to book and more expensive to imagine doing without. When your mother needs dental work, you pay the bill. When the basement takes on water, you call someone and approve the repair. Money has stopped being the first question in most ordinary decisions. The phone has stopped being quiet. Some calls are urgent. Many only sound urgent because the person making them knows you can decide something. At $30,000, you could call 3 times and still reach voicemail. At $300,000, an unanswered email can produce a second email asking whether everything is okay. The attention is useful. It can also become intoxicating. At a conference, a vendor laughs too hard at an ordinary joke. A senior executive introduces you as the person who transformed the Midwest operation, even though hundreds of employees did the transforming. During a panel, you repeat an observation Elena made months earlier, and someone in the audience writes it down. You begin noticing how easily authority can be mistaken for originality. The lifestyle around the authority grows quietly. The new house made sense. So did the safer cars, the school activities, the travel, and the services that keep the household moving while you are away. Someone cleans the house. Someone handles the lawn. Meals arrive on the nights your flight lands late. None of it is absurd. Together, it makes your life expensive to interrupt. Chart 3. Two kinds of freedom. Your protection from financial shocks keeps growing. Your control over an ordinary day does not. That is the trap the salary numbers hide. Financial freedom can rise while control of your time falls. One night, after everyone is asleep, you calculate how long the family could maintain its current life if the job disappeared. You have investments, home equity, and a large emergency fund. The answer is much better than it was at $30,000. It is also shorter than someone looking only at your income would expect. Then a former colleague named Marcus calls. He took a lower paying role 6 months ago. He sounds different, lighter, less rushed. He tells you he has dinner with his family most nights now. Do you regret it, you ask? Not the money, he says. I was more afraid of what everyone would think the pay cut meant. The sentence stays with you. You understand that fear. Your title has become the fastest way strangers know how to place you. Moving down would not only change the paycheck, it would change the introduction, the invitations, the way certain people wait for your answer. The social cost of stepping back can feel real, even when the financial cost is manageable. You test that fear when a recruiter calls about a higher title, more equity, and more travel. This time, you ask what Wednesday really looks like. How many nights would you be home? How often would a vacation be interrupted? How many decisions truly require you? The answers grow less polished. You decline the interview. Part of you wonders whether you refused the next version of success. Another part notices that you can still make it to dinner. This is wealth no compensation statement records, judging an opportunity by the life it requires, not only the number it offers. The following week, your child has a school performance on Friday afternoon. Your calendar shows a leadership call at the same time. You ask an executive assistant to move it. She says the other participants may not be available. For a second, you almost accept that answer. Then you remember how many times your life has rearranged itself around people with more authority. They can meet without me, you say. You attend the performance. Nothing collapses. The company continues. The people on the call make decisions without you. For 2 hours, nobody needs your approval, and the feeling is more luxurious than the larger house. Then the company is acquired. Your phone begins ringing before the announcement reaches every employee. Lawyers want signatures. Executives want reassurance. Employees want to know whether their jobs are safe. The buyer wants you to stay through the transition. The retention agreement includes salary, a large bonus, and accelerated equity compensation. If the targets are met and the equity reaches the stated value, your total compensation for the next year will reach $1 million. The largest number of your life appears on the same screen that once showed missed calls from your warehouse manager. This time, everyone wants an answer from you. Level 5. $1 million. Everyone wants something from the call. $1 million does not arrive as 12 equal deposits of roughly $83,333. Your total compensation is a combination of salary, performance bonus, retention compensation, and equity. Taxes take a significant share. Settlement timing, trading restrictions, and changes in share value can delay or alter what the equity becomes in spendable cash. The headline is simpler than the money underneath it. But even after all of that, this is extraordinary income. You can pay off your mother's mortgage. You can fully fund your child's education account. You can give generously, hire good professional help, and handle almost any ordinary problem without asking whether you can afford the solution. Money at this level does not merely buy nicer things. It buys speed, privacy, access, and the ability to protect people you love. It also makes you visible to people who never knew where to find you before. A wealth manager has a proposal. A founder wants your investment. A charity asks for a 5-year commitment. A distant cousin has a business idea. Most of these people are not dishonest. They have reasons for calling, just as you have reasons for answering. But the warmth now carries weight. Success changes silence. When you pause before answering, people assume you are considering an important decision. Years earlier, the same pause was read as uncertainty. You begin to see that money has not only changed who calls, it has changed the meaning people assign to everything you do between calls. You learn to hear the request before it is spoken. At $30,000, people did not have time for your story. At $1 million, people want to tell you theirs, especially the part where you can change the ending. The employees' calls are different. Elena asks whether the new owners will close the original warehouse. Brad, older now and reporting into another division, wants to know what will happen to the night shift. Managers who once appeared untouchable are waiting for you to say they are safe. You recognize the feeling in their voices. It is the feeling you had outside the repair shop. One person somewhere has the power to make the next month easier or harder, and you need that person to answer. You return every one of those calls, even when you cannot give the answer they want. That becomes your rule. Money may change how long people listen to you. It does not give you permission to forget what waiting felt like. You need another rule for family requests. Paying off your mother's mortgage is simple because the gift has a clear ending. A cousin's business proposal is different. The first check could lead to another, and affection can make a weak investment feel like an obligation. So, you stop answering financial requests during the call. You listen, ask for the details in writing, and wait 48 hours before deciding. If the money is a gift, you call it a gift. If it is an investment, it must survive the same questions you would ask a stranger. If saying yes would create resentment, you say no without inventing an excuse. The boundary protects both the money and the relationship. At $30,000, you needed rules because one mistake could threaten rent. At $1 million, you need rules because almost every request sounds affordable alone. Wealth removes, "Can I pay for this?" It does not remove, "Should I?" Still, the calls do not stop. Your calendar fills with opportunities your younger self would have considered proof that you made it. Advisory roles, investments, dinners with people whose names appear in business articles. Each invitation seems valuable. Each one also takes an evening, a weekend, or another part of your attention. One Saturday morning, you are standing in the kitchen reading a message about a deal when your phone rings. It is Marcus. He does not ask about the acquisition. He does not congratulate you on the number. He does not have an opportunity. He asks, "Are you happy?" You begin with the automatic answer. The deal went well. The team performed. The family is secure. The transition is busy but exciting. Marcus waits. You stop talking. It is the only call all week that does not require money, a decision, access, reassurance, or the successful version of you. You look around the kitchen. The house is quiet. Your family left for breakfast 40 minutes ago after asking whether you wanted to come. You said you had one email to finish. The email is still open. For years, you told yourself the next number would create enough space. At $30,000, you needed an emergency fund. At $60,000, you needed to clear the debt. At $120,000, you needed to protect the family. At $300,000, you needed the equity to vest. Now the number is $1 million, and you are still standing alone in a kitchen saying you will join everyone after one more message. The realization is not that money failed. Money did exactly what it was supposed to do. The car repair can no longer threaten rent. Your mother is safe. Your child has opportunities. You can leave this job without putting next month's life in danger. The realization is that money cannot make the decision for you. It cannot decide which calls matter. It cannot end a meeting, silence a phone, or tell the people you love that they no longer have to wait. It can create the option. You still have to use it. Research by Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Kahneman complicates the claim that money stops improving well-being after one magic salary. For many people, well-being can keep rising with income. Money can improve life. It simply cannot identify the life you want. The following Monday, the acquiring company's chief executive officer calls about extending the retention agreement. The new package is larger. The expectations are larger too. For most of your life, a person with that title calling would have felt like proof that you mattered. Now, you let it ring once before answering, not as a performance, not because you no longer care, because your child is finishing a story at the breakfast table, and for the first time in a long time, you refuse to make the person in front of you compete with the person on the phone. You call the chief executive officer back 10 minutes later. He answers on the first ring. The call that matters. At $30,000, nobody had time for your story. A broken car became an attendance problem before anyone asked what happened. At $60,000, people began returning your calls. Your title gave your knowledge a weight it did not have the day before. At $120,000, your opinion could stop a meeting. You gained enough authority to make space for people who still had to fight to finish a sentence. At $300,000, every call felt important. Your time became valuable to everyone except the people who had been waiting for it longest. At $1 million, everyone wanted an answer. The real skill was finally knowing which calls deserved one. Income matters. It can turn emergencies into inconveniences. It can protect your family, expand your choices, and remove years of unnecessary stress. There is nothing noble about being unable to repair a car, visit a doctor, or leave a job that is hurting you. But income also changes the outline people see around you. They may listen longer, they may laugh harder, they may assume your ordinary thoughts are insight and someone else's insight is ordinary. That attention can be useful. It is not the same as knowing you. So before chasing the next level, ask 3 questions. Which problem will the higher income actually solve? Which new obligation is likely to arrive with it? And what rule will protect the time, relationship, or value you refuse to trade away? If you cannot answer the 3rd question, the raise may expand your options while quietly deciding how you use them. Write the answers before the next offer arrives. Name the expense that keeps you awake now. Name the amount of cash that would turn a bad week into an inconvenience. Then, name one boundary the higher income is not allowed to buy from you. Dinner 3 nights a week, 1 phone-free morning, the freedom to leave a harmful job, or the ability to help someone without endangering your own household. A number becomes useful when it is attached to a decision. Otherwise, it can keep moving while enough moves with it. The number beside your name will keep changing. Your responsibility is to remember the person who existed before the calls came back and to notice the people who are still waiting for someone to answer. So answer this in the comments. At what income would you work because you wanted to, not because you had no other choice? And what do you think would actually change at that number? If this story changed how you think about income, like the video and subscribe. This channel is about what money does to real life, not just what it does inside a spreadsheet. At $30,000, you were waiting for someone important to call you back. At $1 million, you finally understand that the most important call is the one that reminds you who you were before the number changed.